All right, guys, so we're gonna work our foam roller stretch and core class today. So I've got a nice long foam roller that'll basically reach tailbone to top of the head if I was laying on it vertically. But we're gonna start by rolling and stretching first. So there's a couple of ways that you can do it, especially with the fact that we're gonna be pushing up on the hands, the arms, and putting a little bit of pressure on the shoulder. But I want you to think about it more from a sense of gymnastic strength, that as you're pushing up here, you're using your core, you're drawing your abdominals in, so we're getting that stretch, we're working the lower limbs, but the upper body is still getting a really good workout. With the foam roller, when we're doing leg stuff, like when we're trying to open up that tissue at, below the knee, when that lever arm is so much farther away, it's a lot harder. You could go one leg at a time. So if I was to slide my foam roller all the way out and to the right, I could have my left foot on the mat, on the ground, and just work that right leg. So when I push up, I can use this whole left side to help support and weight, so there's not so much pressure on my upper body. Otherwise, if you feel strong and confident in the position, you can go both legs at the same time and be able to push and hold your body weight up in this position. So you can do that for the legs, the whole leg, so from bottom to top, either single or double. So I'm going to start off with single just to demo when we work on the calf stretch. And anytime we're doing the foam roller, I want you to stay out of the back of the knee, so like a good 4-finger width from the back of the knee crease. So I'm going to come up to the top of the calf muscle here, those two heads of the gastroc, and I'm going to stop about a good 2 to 3 inches from that knee crease. And the same thing goes for the hamstring. There's a lot of vascularity behind the knee, and I don't want you to put any pressure of the foam roller into the back of that knee. So we're going to stay below the knee crease and above that knee crease. So starting with that right leg, I'm going to work the foam roller down to just above the ankle there at the soleus, and hands come back. And I want to make sure that I'm not slouching, I'm not collapsing to the position, because we get to use this as a core workout as well. We're going to press up off the ground, and we're going to reach and send the hips forward, bending that left knee more and drawing back. Rolling up the back of the leg and forward. And we can add some flexion to that ankle by drawing the top of the foot back to increase that stretch, and then relax the foot as we slide back towards the heel and back towards the ankle. I like starting fresh when I'm not tired at the bottom of the leg, because it's harder on the arms and the shoulder, and as I work my way up, it gets easier and I'm not so tired. If your legs are long or you've got some mobility, you may have to do this in sections where you draw the foam roller up a little bit more, say to the center at the back of the leg, and then push up and then start to work to the top of that calf. And as you can see, I stop right there about 2 or 3 inches before the back of the knee, and then come right back down. So I really focus on just to the top of the muscle and out of the back of the knee, not getting anywhere near that knee. So if you're doing single side, you can switch over to the left. And sometimes it's nice to also do that single-sided work, because you can figure out, based on the feel of the stretch, which side is tighter, and spend more time opening and stretching that tighter side. Or maybe it's one segment of the muscle on one side and the other leg, you feel it more in a different place. And that will help you target those stretches for better mobility and better flexibility. And for those of you that like to try double legs on, especially if you've got the strength and you want to save time, again, I'm going to start just there above the ankle and pressing up nice and strong. Remember, no slouching, no shrugging. We're going to push up and reach. And this is a lot of upper body strength, core strength. I think about the gymnasts that use the parallel bars. And if you're long or you've got some mobility restrictions, you may have to do this in sections. So I'm going to do another pass or two up the back of the lower leg. And you can rotate the leg too, turning the leg out to hit the side of the calf, the outside of the calf. Or separating the legs, turning in slightly to hit that inside medial portion of the calf muscle as you roll up and down. So getting just into the back of the leg is great, but try to work to the inside and the outside as well. So I'm going to plant the hips, kind of give my shoulders a bit of a break. We're going to transition the foam roller to our back. We're going to go back and forth between leg and back to give our arms, our wrists, our hands and shoulders a rest. So I'm going to bring that foam roller horizontal up against my low back, my sacrum, and bend the knees, plant the feet. Hands are going to cross the chest or hold on to the back of the legs for better support. We're going to drop those shoulders, and then we're going to support as we hinge back. And then draw the abdominals in as you come back up. I'm working this pivot. I'm going to pivot and hinge, working that segment. And then I'm going to roll that foam roller up a little bit, more to the top of the low back, beginning of that thoracic spine, just at the bottom of the rib cage. And again, I hinge, drawing the abdominals in as if we're doing a chest lift or that hundreds prep work. So abdominals are active as we come back up. I'm going to hit about 4 sections on the spine. So now I'm just at the base of the shoulder blade. And again, I can now transition my hands to my chest and hinge back, using the abdominals to help bring me back up and hinge. The last section is going to be right across the shoulder blades. So you can go hands to the chest or arms out to a T and drop the head back, stretch back, lift a little, and one more stretch back. All right, coming up, we're going to move that foam roller back to the leg so we can hit the hamstring. I'm going to start single leg. We'll do single right, single left, and then if you want to try double legs on, we'll get into that bit. I'm going to start a couple inches above the crease in the knee, and then press up. Nice, straight, long right leg, and I'm going to roll it up to the bottom of the hip and back down. And as you can feel, it got easier for the upper body to support the weight of the hips and the legs in the lower half as you roll. And I'm going to rotate that right leg out into a bit of external rotation, even twist a little bit through the torso so I can get the outside of the leg a bit more. And hit those different muscle groups of the hamstring. You're just to the outside of that IT band, hitting VL, and then rolling in a little bit. Getting the inside of the hamstring, rotating that leg in, and we're rotating the leg from the hip, not by twisting the knee, the foot, or the ankle. The whole leg is rotating in. I'm going to come down and pause, shift that foam roller out to the side, to the other side, to the left, and bending that right knee, pressing up, nice proud chest, flat back, abdominals are active, and we're pivoting at the shoulder. And we're going to rotate that left leg out to hit the outside of the leg from knee to hip. And again, use those single leg movements. We're going to turn in a little bit now and rotate in for the inside of that hamstring. Use those single leg stretches here to find those areas that are tighter, so you can always go back and open and stretch those restrictions. All right, let's slide that foam roller straight across to the center. Both legs are on. We're pushing up. And if you don't want to do double leg, go back to that harder, that tighter side, that side where you found maybe some more adhesions, those little knots in the muscles that you want to break up. And we're rolling through. And you can rotate out. It's harder to get that external, internal rotation when both legs are on the roller, so that single leg work is a lot nicer for that part. And we'll go for one more pass, and we'll rest the hips. So again, I'm going to transition, returning to the back, returning to the spine to give the arms and the hands a bit of a break. And we'll start with knees bent, feet flat, the foam roller right there against the small of the back. I like to hold on to the back of the thighs. I'm going to scoot down just so I don't run into the back of the Cadillac. Hips are going to lift up, and I'm going to roll just kind of the bottom half of the spine. I don't want to create too much movement, but I'm working from the top of the hip all the way up to about mid-ribs to the bra line, and I'm just drawing the abdominals in. If you feel fairly supported, you can always go hands to the back of the head. It's a little harder as you bring the foam roller towards the hips, so that's why that lower half, having hands at the legs, a bit easier, a bit comfortable. So I'm going to plant the hips, and I'm going to start with the foam roller for this next section right across the mid-ribs at the base of the shoulder blade. Knees are bent, and here I can go hands behind the head, pick the hips up, and roll. Rolling from base of the shoulder blades all the way up the back, creating a little bit of flexion to round and stretch. You go hands behind the head, hands across the chest, or even arms out to a T as we roll the upper back. Let's go for 2 more passes, and then we're going to bring that foam roller down to the hip to work that figure 4 and that gentleman's stretch. So coming up, we're going to sit right on top of our foam roller, and hands are going to reach back. Now for the hands and the wrists, if you've got mobility, flexibility issues, or maybe arthritis, sometimes it's nice to do this up against like a low chair or the couch where you can prop your elbows up onto something and use your forearm versus the hand or the wrist. So you have to find that kind of comfort piece for you. I'm going to take my left foot and put it on top of my right knee, just like if we were doing our figure 4 stretch lying flat on the mat. And now I'm going to tip onto just that left hip. So my right hip, right glute is up off the mat, off the roller. And I'm going to roll up and down the back of that left hip. Slight twist, slight rotation, so I'm on just the left side to the left of the sacrum. And I'm rolling back and forth. Be mindful of the alignment of that right leg, that right knee, that it's not diving in past the big toe of the right foot. And we're rolling back and forth. Maybe pivoting a little bit more to get into the outside of the hip a bit, into TFL. And we'll go one more pass. And we'll come to center. Roll just across the sacrum just a little bit. And then we'll switch. We're going to go right ankle, right foot across that left knee, tip and twist onto that right hip, and we're going to roll. And now again, since we are higher up from the leg to the hip, much easier for the arms and the shoulders to support the movement. And again, you're looking for those adhesions, you're checking in to see which side feels tighter. And we'll do another pass. And we'll sit down in front of the roller. We're going to work into a bit of the lat movement. So I want to come from underarm down to the mid-rib just a little bit. So this is more sideline work. So I'm going to kind of come onto my left side, bring that foam roller up into the underarm, and I want to have one knee bent either in front of that left leg or behind, wherever is comfortable. And I'm not going to really lift up too much because I don't want to put too much pressure, but I'm going to roll from underarm down to mid-rib to bra line and back, rolling along that lat. Opening up that tissue a bit more. You could even hang out on it and kind of rock over it if the rolling is uncomfortable, just like how we did those spinal pivots where we lean back. Working that tissue, using the foam roller to open. And then we're going to pivot and switch over to that right side. So again, I'm going to come onto that right side at the underarm. Left knee is bent with the foot flat. And I'm going to lift up and roll a little. And if that's too much pressure, you drop the hip and you're going to pivot over and back, creating a little bit of lateral flexion. And you find what works. As well as checking in to see which side feels tighter, more restricted. One more pass. And we're going to bring the foam roller to the front. We're going to hit our last bit on the legs. We're going to work on opening up the front of the thigh. So I'm kneeling. I'm going to bring the foam roller just to the bottom of the thigh there towards the top of the knee. And coming down to the forearms. Legs are nice and straight, and we're going to roll from pubic bone all the way down towards the top of the knee. And back. Working those passes up and down the front of the thigh. We'll do one more pass, and then we're going to hit into a little bit of the side of the hip and thigh before we get into more of that core specific foam roller work. So I'm going to come onto the side of my right leg, and my left leg is propped up and over. And I'm going to start at the hip. So right above that bottom portion of the hip before the hip crest. And I'm going to roll down the side of the thigh along what most folks kind of talk about with the IT band, but we're really trying to hit vastus lateralis and open up that tissue on the outside of the thigh, which is not the most comfortable thing to do, but especially for ladies with our Q angles, the angle of our thigh coming from our hip to our knee being a little bit more extreme. Opening up this tissue is really important for good knee health and knee function. And we're going to switch and pivot to the other side. So again, I'm going to come onto that left hip, left leg is straight, right foot and leg is up over the top. I'm starting mid-hip before the top of the crest and coming down. And then walking it down the thigh. Getting into the hip and coming back. Now, a lot of like this side, hip, and leg work, if it's too much putting gravity and the weight of your body down on the foam roller, you can work this up against a wall or do self-massage with like a tennis ball or one of those massage sticks. One more pass. And then we'll come down. All right, so let's work into some of our bridges. So I'm going to have the foam roller at the bottom half of the mat. I'm going to rest my feet up on the foam roller, curl and roll back. Arms are nice and long down by our side. We're reaching with the fingertips to draw the shoulders away from the neck and the ears. And then on the exhale, we're going to tilt the hips back, imprint the low back, peel and curl, bridging up into that shoulder bridge. And on the next exhale, we're going to curl and roll down. Rolling segment by segment, vertebra by vertebra, all the way through to the tailbone. I'm going to walk my foam roller in. It's a little too far away. And exhale, curling and rolling up. On this next one, I'm going to stay up, stay lifted. I'm going to roll the roller forward, pivoting onto the heel, and then pulling the roller back, working that hamstring curl. Trying not to let the hips drop as I push that roller away and draw it in. One more. And curl and roll down. Bringing the foam roller in, I'm going to bring it right up underneath the hips, underneath the sacrum, so it's horizontal across the back of the pockets. Hands are going to come to the outside of the roller, and we're going to bring our legs to tabletop. We're going to draw our knees in towards our chest, round and flex the low back. Feel that great stretch. And then back to tabletop. We're just going to work a little bit of that flexion, decompress the low back, draw the abdominals in, pull navel to spine as the knees come in, and then right back out. We'll go two more. It's important to try to hold on to the outside edges of the roller, especially for this one, so it doesn't shift and scooch away from you. I'm going to rest my feet, reset the roller, make sure it's horizontal right across the back of the hips, and then legs return to tabletop. Ribs and abs knit in, keeping that nice line so I'm not collapsed towards the mat. Separating the knees just a little bit, we're going to work single leg lowers, hinging at the hip, the foot taps the mat, and up. Working just that right side for 2, 3, 4, and 5, right leg comes up, and left foot is going to lower, hinging at the hip, finding that extension of the thigh coming from the hip. Last one, and back to center. We'll alternate in for leg changes, right leg, then left, working that simultaneous switch. As one leg's lowering, the other is lifting. We're working on trying to tap the mat with the foot, but remember you can scale your range of motion. You don't have to try to travel all the way to the floor. Ribs knit in, shoulders pull back and down. Core stays nice and tight. One more each side. And we'll pause at tabletop, transitioning into single leg extensions. Right leg reaches and draws back. Left leg reaches and drawing back. We're going to alternate that single leg extension forward out over the mat, lengthening nice and long, drawing the ribs in, pulling navel to spine. One more each side. And we return to those knee tucks, holding on to the side of the roller, knees pull in, round the back, and back to tabletop. We'll do 2 more, creating that flexion, pulling the abdominals in, decompressing the low back. 1 more. And reset the roller. Legs come back to tabletop. We're working double leg extensions forward. Inhale, both legs reach. And exhale to draw back. Nice and smooth as you lengthen and stretch forward. And for those of you that have had challenges with working some of this lower leg work in our mat classes without any props, adding that foam roller to the work, as you can feel it decompresses the low back. It takes a lot of the torque off the hip by elevating and lifting the pelvis. So you could always bring this work into our regular mat class. Let's reach those legs forward, straight and long. We're going to turn out with the leg from the hip at the thigh and legs open. Flex at the ankle, draw together and close. Point the toes and reach across. Flex at the ankle, draw back together and point. Nice and smooth, drawing that straight line across the ceiling with the feet and the legs. 1 more. And we'll bring the knees in. Let's rest that left foot down to the mat with a knee bent. Right leg is going to reach up towards the ceiling, and we're going to inhale to lower that right leg, flexing at the ankle, drawing the foot back and kicking up, lowering for 2. Working that movement at the hip, and 3, 2 more. And we'll bend that right knee, place the foot back to the mat, and reset upper body, ribs knit in. Left leg to tabletop, it extends up towards the ceiling, and with a pointed toe, plantar flex, we drop the leg. Flex at the ankle, draw the foot back, we kick up. Last 2. And we'll bend the knees, draw both legs to tabletop. And we're going to extend the legs straight up towards the ceiling. Let's flex at the ankle. And we're going to pendulum swing from side to side. On the inhale, we're going to drop the legs over to the right, lifting the left hip. And then exhale, back to center. Inhale, tip and twist left. And back to center. Nice and smooth as you rock from hip to hip, knitting the ribs in. We're pivoting across the bra line at the mid-ribs. We're not twisting into the low back. Low back is stable, protected by the back extensors and the abdominals that are firing to keep it in neutral. And last one to the left. Coming back to center, we'll bring our knees to tabletop if you need to reset the roller. And bent knees, spine twist supine. On the inhale, legs tip and twist onto that right hip. And it's great because we get to open and stretch the hip with the roller as we're working this abdominal exercise. Twisting along the mid-ribs, we rock onto that left side, anchor the right shoulder, and exhale back to center. Gliding from side to side. Cinching up tight through that corset, through the mid-ribs, as we draw the abdominals in. One more each side. And we'll rest the feet, go to butterfly pose, knees fall out, soles of the feet together. You can release your hands from the foam roller and go arms out to the T position, palms up. And we'll stretch and breathe for just a few breaths. One more breath, and we'll slow to unwind. Resetting that foam roller. And if the foam roller, after some time, it gets uncomfortable, feel free to throw like a little hand towel underneath your hips for a little extra padding and cushion. We'll bring our knees to tabletop. We'll straighten those legs up towards the ceiling, and we're gonna flex at the ankle. We're working our corkscrew movement. We're gonna pivot across, straight across to the right hip, right side, drop down the right, swing up the left onto that left hip, and across to center. We reverse our direction to the left, down the left side, hook up and over, up that right, and across. And we go to the other. Alternating from side to side, reaching long with the legs, knitting the ribs in. Last one, transitioning to the left. And back to center. Legs are straight, reaching up towards the ceiling. We're going to point the toes. The right leg is going to lower, and we'll switch. Working that scissor kick. Reaching straighter and longer with the leg. Trying not to overflex at the low back. Two more each side. And we'll draw the knees in towards the chest, round and stretch the back, rest the knees at the chest, letting the back stretch and open. One more breath, and then we'll slide that foam roller out. We're gonna press it out in a way, and let's rest the back of the lower leg on the top of the foam rollers. They're just above the ankle. We'll do a few roll-ups. Arms reach up overhead, ribs and abdominals knit in, and on the inhale, arms flow forward, bringing chin to chest. Folding at the mid-ribs, we curl and roll up. Rolling forward, reaching out over the legs, stretching forward, long and strong. And shoulders glide down. We exhale, hips tilt back. We curl back, rolling along the spine piece by piece. Arms reach up strong overhead. And exhale, arms fold forward, folding along the mid-ribs. We curl and roll. Easier to do some of those roll-ups with the legs up on the roller. Reaching out nice and long. One more roll up. And we'll bend the knees. We're going to bring the foam roller vertical along the spine. So we want it to go from tailbone to head, right in the center of your mat. I start at the very bottom end of the roller to make sure that when I roll back, I have enough space for all of my spine and for my head. That's why the longest rollers are the nicest to do a lot of this vertical work. If you don't have a longer roller, you can do this just flat on the mat. So we're going to find that little gap, that little tunnel at the small of the back. If this is too much pressure on your tailbone, again, add some padding with a small towel or tilt back into a pelvic tilt to take that pressure off the sacrum and off the tailbone. Finding that position that works best for you. I like a little bend in the elbow, forearm flat to the mat. And now we're going to bring our right leg up to tabletop and then the left, hugging through inner thigh. Chest is proud, collarbone spreads wide, and we're balancing. Trying not to white knuckle and grip too much with the fingertips onto the mat. Feel that light pressure. You're isolating that core work as you knit the ribs and the abdominals in. You can even find more balance by coming to just the elbow and trying to lighten that touch and that connection to the mat. One more breath, finding that balance, that control. And I'm going to rest my forearms back to the mat, open the collarbone wide as if my shoulder blades are wrapping around into the roller. And inhale, legs extend. And exhale back. Working more of that balance and that core engagement as the legs reach. A bit different in these movements compared to that horizontal position of the roller under the hips. Last one. And we'll bend the knees and rest the feet down to the mat. Fingers are going to interlace. We're going to bring our hands behind our head, work a little bit of our chest lift. And on the exhale, we fold along the mid-ribs to lift the head, neck, and chest. Now with this foam roller work, I take a bit of a wider stance with my feet and my legs. They're about like a narrow hip width position, and the knees are lined up right over the center of the foot, second, third toe. So the leg alignment is clean. Exhale to fold and lift. Trying not to flex and touch the low back down to the mat unless you're modifying that hip position for comfort. Last two chest lifts. And reset back to the mat. Working into our floor angel, our Da Vinci stretch, we're going to tilt the hips back. We want as much of the spine connected to the roller as we can. Arms are straight and long, like they're trying to grab the back of your heels and your ankles. Back of the hands are on the floor, and we're going to start to open and stretch out. Without the spine, leaving the roller, the arms open out to that T. And once we can't transition any farther, we're going to pause and hold in that stretch. We're breathing for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Try to bring the arms up a little bit more and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Arms move a little higher and we hold for 5, 4, 3, and on the exhale, arms flow forward, head, neck, chest lifts. And inhale to reset, working that 100 prep. Exhale, fold along the mid-ribs, arms glide down along the side of the hip and thigh. And slow to reset. Last two. Arms come back down to the bottom, reaching for the back of the heels. Let's reset the back, reset the hips. Hips tilt back, we imprint the low back. Arms straight and nice and long, and we begin to open out. Reaching out nice and long. Coming up to that T or that first stopping point where you can't move any farther, and we brace and hold, stretching further for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Arms come up higher and we hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All the way up. Even if they have to lift up off of the floor, we're stretching long for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bringing the arms back down by the side. Reaching nice and long. Let's reset to that neutral spine, that little gap at the small of the back. Elbows are bent in at the side. We'll walk our feet a little bit closer now, about sits bones distance apart. And right leg is going to lift to tabletop, and we're hinging at the hip. Toe taps the mat. Back into those single leg lifts, single leg lowers. And then see if you can bring the forearm, the hands up. And start to lighten that grip and that touch and that connection of the arm to the mat. Can you float while that right leg moves? One more. And the foot rests. We'll reset the arms and the spine. Left leg to tabletop. And we hinge at the hip. Foot taps the mat. You're going to find the side that's harder than the other. Start to lighten that grip. Maybe come to just the elbow. Nice and smooth. See if you can float the arms. Even if you have to float and then just hold that left leg. One more. And we'll rest the foot. Arms come up over the chest, drawing the shoulder blades back and down. And we're going to go palms up towards the ceiling as the arms reach up long overhead. Nice big stretch. Arms circle out and around. Down to the side of the hip. They go palms down towards the floor. And arms reach up. Anchoring the spine, drawing the abdominals in as the arms circle so we can open and stretch along the chest, through the shoulders, across the biceps. Reach. And circle. One more. And arms reach down nice and long by your side or bent at the elbow. And we're going to bring our legs to tabletop, little separation from knee to knee, and working our leg changes. Seeing where you can find that balance. If you need the hand, the arm to connect to the mat or just the elbow, can you lighten that connection, that touch, that grip? Ribs knit in. Try not to overextend the spine. Keep it in the abdominals as you stitch the ribs together. One more each side. And we'll bend the knees and rest the feet. Arms are going to reach back up overhead. We're going to stretch. You can even flare the ribs, arch the back. Take a little wider stance with the feet and the knees. And on the exhale, arms come forward. And we curl and roll and push ourselves up. We're going to bring our foam roller forward for our last stretch to the front of the mat. Give yourself some space. And we're going to be on our knees. You could do this standing if you've got somewhere to put the foam roller out in front of you. And I'm going to go hands in that kind of karate chop position, pinky down, thumb up. And we're going to reach forward. Palms rotate up as we drop the chest towards the thighs and we stretch. Reaching out overhead nice and long. And exhale, curling around the back. Drawing the foam roller back towards the knees. And we press forward to stretch. Palms up. As we roll, we're reaching, we're rolling, getting that stretch to the lat. And exhale to curl. Curling back up. And forward fold. Last one, reaching out, palms up as we stretch. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, tuck and curl. Arms reach up overhead, fingers interlace. We hinge up and over to the right and over to the left. And arms down by your side. All right, guys. Great work today. Nice job.